Marianne, thank you very much. I'm really very proud that our group has organised today, and I think it's been brilliant to hear so many different ideas from so many different NGOs and others. I think it makes my job as one of the co-rapporteurs incredibly difficult, but also incredibly interesting. And I perhaps should start by saying I think it's very good that with an initiative like this, we've ended up in the Parliament with 4 co-rapporteurs, 2 from the Constitutional Affairs Committee, Alain Lamassoure and Zita Gourmay, so 1 from the EPP and 1 from the Socialists, from France and Hungary, from the Petitions Committee, myself from the ALDE group from the United Kingdom, and Jared Hefner from the Green group from Germany. So I think the Parliament has made a good start with this team of 4 that again gives a good spread of experience and backgrounds. We have had only 1 meeting so far with all 4 of us, and I think we then agreed, A, to take our time, and B, as 4 rapporteurs, to try to keep in step to maximise the Parliament's impact. So I hope that reassures some of the speakers today. Before I go on, I should also, I suppose, declare my own interest in this matter. I first became involved in the campaign for the European Citizens' Initiative at the time of the convention and have subsequently remained, perhaps as a badly attending member, involved with the Institute for Referendums and Initiatives. But I am committed to this, and I am committed to it because I see the problems of being a directly elected member of this House. We are distant, however much we try, from those we serve. Too often, the information that we get comes from umbrella lobby groups rather than directly from citizens on the ground. And we need that input. We need it desperately to make Europe work more effectively and better. So Lisbon has given us that opportunity, but it also presents us with many challenges in how we enact and implement it. And it's not just the citizens' initiative. We are in a new world of interinstitutional relationships, and I want to come back to that in a moment because it touches on some of the issues that have been raised. Now, I believe that the European Citizens' Initiative is a serious instrument. And if it is a serious instrument, it demands 2 things. Yes, it should be safe and simple, but of course there will be serious criteria to reach to get to the end result. And again, if it is serious, it demands and it deserves absolutely serious follow-up from the Commission. So the 2 things go together. If you have a serious system or methodology for arriving there, that deserves a serious answer. Now, for my part, and this is a personal remark, I would prefer to see things as open as possible. I personally would like to see people from the age of 16 able to sign. I would like to see European residents able to sign. The reason I say that is because of our experience as a parliament with the petitions system. That is all we require for petitions. People can do it online. Obviously, we require that the 16 doesn't apply, but it's much more open. So why should we be fearful in terms of the initiative? I don't think we have anything to be fearful of in opening this process up, and I certainly agree with those that have said we should take the age limit down to 16 if we are serious about communicating with Europe. Now, of course, we've talked about how do we check, what's going to be admissible, what's not, formal, legal, political checks. Again, my own view, let's keep it simple. Of course there has to be a human rights check. That's absolutely paramount. But above and beyond that, maybe we take, obviously, our starting point as the values in the Rome Treaty, yes, what it says in the Lisbon Treaty. But beyond that, where it gets more fuzzy, we have this idea in English law that you can't accept things that are vexatious and frivolous. But how do you actually determine that? Maybe it's Mario's MEPs in blue and yellow stars, I don't know. But, it's going to be a difficult one sometimes. I also think it would be interesting to pay a great deal of attention to the form for registration. In other areas of European regulations that I know well, we've annexed forms to the actual regulation. Now, I believe the form should be simple, but the form also needs within itself to provide help to citizens, and it needs in a way to be self-translating. So I think the form could assist us, and it could, if we think carefully about the form of registration, help us see how the system will work. I also truthfully believe that the Commission will need more staff to deal with this, that we should somehow or other involve the Commission offices in the Member States and possibly the Parliament offices. But now let me say something about the Member States. We heard a plea for the Parliament to stand up and say, we should know who Europe's citizens are, this should be European, etc., etc. Of course, in my heart, I have a huge amount of sympathy with that. But also, we are in Europe where we are. We have the Lisbon Treaty and not a constitution. We now have a mix that does give, in some ways, almost slightly more power to the member states. And therefore, we have to involve them, because Europe is about all three institutions being involved and working together: Parliament, Commission, and member states. Therefore, I think it will be absolutely good if the member states do have some stake in this procedure, but of course not to inhibit it or complicate it. But they do need to be involved, and I think that should be positive. Likewise, in the same way that Lisbon involves national parliaments, maybe they and some of their petitions committees could help encourage at a member state level some of the initiatives. We shouldn't ignore the forces that are now there through the Treaty of Lisbon to make sure that we all work better together rather than pitting institutions against one another to make Europe work. And the Parliament. What can the Parliament bring? Again, I believe that the Parliament should be able to bring something through perhaps the Petitions Committee, but again, it should not be in any way an inhibiting factor. It has to be a role that helps the Parliament be an advocate on behalf of certain initiatives, if that is appropriate. Perhaps provide an early possibility for a parliamentary hearing, maybe in the Petitions Committee, so that maybe the Parliament has the possibility to put forward its own initiative at the same time, in the same terms, as the Citizens' Initiative, so that Commission is indeed confronted with a double whammy. And that would be fairly convincing, elected representatives together with citizens. But it's not clear to me at this stage whether some of this needs to be in the regulation, but it does need to be there as a possibility. But I see this new, exciting right as something that can really help us to make Europe live and make there be a real dialogue and a real possibility for the first time for our citizens across Europe to feel that they can push the button to get some form of legislation at a European level that they would like to see. So it's much more than just a debate. It's actually being able to start the legislative process and not waiting for an elected representative to do it on your behalf. But we could and we should be able to do it together.